We have been in a partnership with Technically for these 10 years, and in the last 5, ETC has taken over Baltimore Innovation Week and has pulled it all together. This would not be possible were it not for Celine go Celine, and Brendan McAdams and Brianna Massey, who also is with ETC. So that said, I want to introduce Brendan McAdams, who will be doing today's first session. As you can see, 3 things to consider when applying to an accelerator. And he will tell you this, but I will too. We kicked off Accelerate Baltimore 10 years ago, and we were the first accelerator in the city of Baltimore, and it has been amazing over the years for the investment that the Able Foundation has made. They have gotten the return on their investment and then some. We've worked with 52 companies. They have gone on to raise an additional $40 million from their original $25,000 investment. 68% are women-owned minority businesses, and it's a absolutely thriving accelerator. So with that, Brendan, before you run away, it's your turn.
Thanks for showing up. Can you hear me okay? Thanks for showing up. I think of myself as kind of a warm-up act for the full week. So, everything gets better from this point on. So I will, before I kick off and talk about the Accelerator program and how to think about it, I do want to say that this is going to be a great week. There's just a lot of great speakers throughout the week. And we've got stuff going on basically from 9 a.m. Every day to into the evening, happy hours every evening. We wrap up on Friday with a big celebration that also kind of coincides with open mic pitch night. So if you've got a pitch and you want to get up and talk, there's free beer. You should attend that. I also have to recognize Maryland Department of Commerce. They're our premier sponsor in this event, and so kudos to them for investing in this so anyway, enjoy this week and make the most of it. You should have a chance to network and meet a lot of new people. And with that, I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about accelerators and why you should do them and how to optimize your application, really, so that you give yourself the best chance of being selected. First of all, anyone here planning to apply for an accelerator? Anyone? All right. Well, this will be for you. So the first thing I would say is I ran the accelerator this last year on behalf of ETC, Accelerate Baltimore. As Deb mentioned, the first accelerator in the region. It's been going on consistently for now the last 10 years, and the 11th year is coming up. And so it's been a great program. There are now a whole bunch of them in the area. There's Conscious Venture Labs. There's stuff that Upsurge is doing. There's 1501 that's Care First is doing. There are a bunch. So obviously, we'd love to have you apply to Accelerate Baltimore, but there are other great avenues out there that may even be more appropriate for your particular business idea. I'm also running Pioneer, which is an early stage kind of startup training program, and so hope to do that again. And so if you have questions about that, catch me afterwards. So the first thing I would say is, why should you apply? Why should you apply to an accelerator at all? And basically, it's just a great exercise to do, even if you're not selected, because it's great training in the event that you want to ultimately go and raise funds. So you're talking to investors. This is good. It's good practice for that. And being in one is really excellent for knowing how investors think. That's part of the curriculum. It's good from just a general sales standpoint. It kind of and the tips that I'm going to focus on are very applicable just to sales and being customer acquisition in general. It's great for recruiting, and it's just good exercise. So I have basically 3 key points that I want to make in the course of the next few minutes, and that is, the first one is when you make an application for an accelerator, and this is true just in general, and that is, you want to be concise, you want to be specific, and you want to be very clear at what you do. When for Accelerate Baltimore, we got over 100 applications. So there's a lot of reading involved for the people that are looking at and evaluating the application. So it can become very tedious to try and figure out what it is what your business is, who you serve, what your business model is, those sorts of things. And so these are very important positions, very important kind of criteria for you to address, and you want to do so as crisply and as simply as possible, because we're reading a lot of stuff, and if we have to dive in and try and figure out what it is you do, it just makes it very hard for us to evaluate you favorably. So the things you want to keep in mind when you talk to, or when you communicate your application for an accelerator, and by the way, this is going to be true when you talk to investors or customers as well, is who is your customer? You got to be very specific about telling us who's your customer, what's their problem, and what it is that you do specifically, or you're aspiring to do to benefit that customer. It's not about you. It's not about your great features or your application, really. It's really about, do you understand who your customer is, what the extent of their pain is, how they're doing things today, and why your solution is going to be better. And this is universally important language to be able to communicate, and it applies just as much when you're applying to an accelerator. And so when I think in terms of being concise, what I mean is you're living this problem, you're thinking about this all the time. And so there's an inclination among founders and early startup people, creators, is to kind of jump ahead and think in terms of already making certain assumptions that the customer understands or the reader understands, and they typically don't. You may use jargon that's specific. You may be making assumptions that the reader won't have access to. You may be talking about a particular industry, if it's construction or cyber, and the person reading and evaluating the application may not understand that industry. So you have to make it very simple and specific and compelling from the standpoint of the reader and ultimately whomever your customer is. So these are things that I think if there's one thing to take away in all of this, it's this. It's that you have to make it very simple, very specific, very readable in as few words as possible. And if you can do that, the likelihood of being selected goes up dramatically. It's amazing how many of the applications we got, we didn't really understand who the company was trying to serve. And so if you can get to that, you've increased the likelihood that you're going to be selected. You're going to increase the likelihood you're going to make sales and get investments and those sorts of things. So this is all just very, very important. The next thing I'd say is, and this often goes without being properly appreciated, is when you make that application, when you go into the process with an accelerator, know what it is that you want to get out of it and articulate that specifically as part of the application. What is it that you intend to do? What is it you intend to get out of it? And one of the things is do you want to meet more people? Do you want to find investors or mentors? Do you want to get better ideas, and collaborate? What are the things? Do you want funding? Probably that's not the lead. That's not. We'll talk about that secondarily. But what are the things that you expect to get out of the program? As a reader of these applications, I want to know what it is that you hunger for. What is it that you want to get out of this? How are you going to gain from being in the program? And if it's a specific kind of a accelerator like 1501 is specific for healthcare, then you want to be specific about these are the sorts of things I want to understand about this particular industry. These are the sorts of introductions I'm hoping to get. This is where I want critiques on my application, whatever it happens to be. So think about that when you make that application. What is it you expect to get out of it? And the converse is what is it that you bring to the equation? What is it you bring to the cohort? One of the things, the big thing, one of the big advantages of being in an accelerator is the collaborative element of it. It's how much the group gets along with and contributes to the ideas and the advancement of your business. And so in a accelerator, there are a lot of opportunities to collaborate and get feedback from others and to give feedback. And so as an evaluator of accelerator applicants, I want to see what you bring to the equation. What can you bring? You have specific skills. That's why you're here. That's why you're applying. Maybe it's you're really good at graphics, or your application development, or you really have certain industry knowledge that you can share. Those things you want to make sure that you make those apparent in the application. In the last cohort, I had one of the cohort members, present on mobile development, mobile application development. So it benefited me as the program director to have folks in the program who could actually contribute in a very formal way, and it worked out incredibly well. So think in terms of how you're going to bring your value to the group. That's what the evaluators, that's what accelerators, groups are looking for, is how can you make the whole thing better? How can you contribute to that momentum, that flywheel? And so in a similar way, we want people that are eager to be in it. So one of the things you want to do as you convey what you bring, one of it's a level of energy, a level of commitment. You're going to be part of it. And so you need to find some way to convey that in your application. So those are my kind of 3 points, but there are bonus tips that I've got in here. So one of the things I like to talk about is, or I think that's very important to understand, is many of these accelerators, Accelerate Baltimore is included in that. We provide $50,000 as a convertible note to each of the cohort participants. So one of the things you'll want to do, you'll be expected to explain, is if there's money involved, how are you going to use it? And the more compelling your use is going to, that you can explain, the better off you're going to be. So if you know that you need money for application development, if you can be very specific, I need this amount of money because I have these 2 developers and they're building these 3 modules, and you can explain that very coherently, that's advantageous to you. So knowing that. You probably don't want to talk much about the money is being used for your salary, if you can avoid that. We, as Accelerator, we want to see people living on ramen and just putting everything back into their business, right? So keep that in mind. On that topic, it's not wrong to ask how does the money work? Like, what's the dilution? What's the impact on you? So you can be prepared to ask that. I would probably hold off on those sorts of questions until after you've been made the short list or been selected. To me, I'm a sales guy, and so selling is about creating a connection, getting understanding, developing trust. So one of the things you'll want to do if you're applying to an accelerator, you're talking to a VC, whatever you're doing, try to contact people beforehand. Try to develop multiple touches with them. See if you can, the likelihood of being selected goes up dramatically if we know who you are, and we've had a chance to understand, and your curiosity is real. And so in that sense, if you can contact and ask questions, participate in any kind of prep sessions that for Accelerate Baltimore, we have several Q&A sessions beforehand, so you have a chance to ask questions and establish kind of a relationship with us. And the folks that do that have a bit of a leg up because we have a chance to understand you better. We have a chance to understand your business and your level of interest and that sort of thing. And that's part of what we do when we think about in terms of the evaluation process. I strongly recommend a 1-minute video. Do something. Don't get fancy. You don't have to get crazy. Shoot it on your phone. They all have cameras now. So but a minute that explains who you are, what you do. It saves us so much time. It's a level of effort. It's a level of initiative. So if you can do that, 1 minute. Just don't make it long. 1 minute. Here's what you do. This is why it's important. This is why I want to be in the program. Boom. Done. That's really important. I talked about the number of different accelerators. There are tons of them out there. You don't even have to be in one here. They're remote. They're spread throughout the country. Techstars has so many, you can't even count them, and they're all over the place. In some cases, you relocate there for a period of time. In some cases, they're virtual. But look around because there are probably a couple dozen here in town, and they're all over the country. So pick the right one. Like I mentioned, 1501 at Care First is, if you're healthcare, then it's very specific on healthcare. So that's going to give you a bit of a leg up. They'll have contacts in that space. You'll want to get in. They'll be able to introduce you to other payers, other health plans, other provider networks. That's a huge advantage that you may not need or may not benefit from if you're a construction startup, and they probably won't select you anyway. So there's that. And then finally, if you're not selected, find out why. Contact them. Now, they may not tell you, but it's not quite like going to a job interview where they're in trouble if they tell you you're not going to, they don't want to get in trouble by explaining why you weren't selected. If you make the effort, if you don't get selected, at least make the effort to figure out why. Figure out what it was, that caused you not to be selected. It may be that you're not a good fit. It may be, if you've been through several of them, if you've been through 2 or 3, we're probably disinclined to select you, right? We're looking for Accelerate Baltimore, we're looking for very relatively early stage. We're oftentimes, I think of it as a bit of a feeder organization for the other startups, for the other accelerator programs. So we're oftentimes a good option if you're thinking about doing another accelerator later, although I'm a big fan of sales and talking about sales and promoting sales as a way to avoid getting funding at all. Because if you can fund based on bootstrapping and revenue from customers, you don't have to go through that awful VC experience. It's not awful, but it's certainly time consuming. So, and that's kind of my ultimately, that's my message in all of this really quickly is, it ultimately boils down to sales. Most things in this, and this is, I know, very unsavory for a lot of people to understand this, but this is all boiling down to sales. All this stuff that I'm talking about, all the things that I'm kind of, these ingredients that I'm suggesting you consider are ingredients that will benefit you just if you've got a startup, if you're starting a business, if you want to turn whatever you're doing from a hobby into a business, these sorts of practices are going to benefit you greatly. So even if just the act of applying and going through the effort is going to benefit you in terms of your development from a sales standpoint, from a customer acquisition standpoint, and I think ultimately that's where I think that's the benefit of applying to Accelerate Baltimore or any other accelerator program that you might consider. So that's kind of what I had for three plus tips with bonus, of course. And so with that, I'll open it up if you have specific questions, or you can get back to your coffee and your texting. Thoughts? Anyone? Questions? Yeah. You have to be louder. Sorry.
I want to know a little things that you were listing a few accelerator programs beyond accelerator.
Yeah.
Can you please go through that list?
Yeah. Let me get back here. So there are a bunch of different accelerators in the Baltimore area. We have an exhaustive list I can get for you, but I mentioned Conscious Venture Labs and the Upsurge Techstars guys, and then 1501, and they're like, I can't remember all of them, but I will get you a list, and we have them all. Yeah, or not all. I think we have a lot of them. Anyone else? Other questions? Yeah.
Are you currently looking for new startups to fund or help?
We're our next. By the way, that's an excellent question. I should have said that. So we run our application process every November. End of October, we'll open up applications typically, and then we make a decision early December, and we kick things off in January. So yes, we will be looking for a next round of accelerator participants toward the very end of this year. Yeah. Yeah, you bet. If you ask how many we select, for us it's 5. So we choose 5 companies, and they each get, as I mentioned, $50,000. And as a convertible note, in the past, it's always been funded by Able Foundation. So it's very favorable in terms of the terms and the flexibility. And it's convertible note right now, although I think they're entertaining the idea of going to a safe note, and so which might be slightly better. But for us, it's 5. I think Techstars does 10. I don't know what 1501 does, and Conscious Venture. So, but. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. Fire away.
What type of company do you typically go for? Is it just biotech or is it other?
No, that's a great question. And the thing I would say, first of all, is we look for companies that are in the Baltimore area. Number one, it's because we're funded by Baltimore Development Corp, and we're really focused on driving economic activity in the city. And so we're looking for companies that are in the Baltimore area. Number one, can you maybe turn that off?
I don't know how to.
We look for companies that have a technology component because we're ETC, emerging technology. So we want tech companies, typically, and so it has to have a tech component. If you're like starting a food truck, that's probably you're not going to do well with us. But if you've got a software or a tech component, then that's a good thing. The other thing that we look for is it has to be relatively early stage for us. So if you're generating a bunch of money already, we're not a good fit. The other thing is the money has to be meaningful for you for your business. So $50,000 is very meaningful if you're developing software. It is rounding error if you're developing a biotech a device, right? We did choose a device company once this last round because it was because of the circumstances around the approach. But generally speaking, if you're a device company, like you're manufacturing something, you're going to need a lot more money. Or if you're going through FDA approval, that sort of thing, then you're going to need a lot more. 50,000 is not going to get you very far. But otherwise, we're looking for early stage kind of startup tech, and then we're pretty broad. It could be B2B, it could be B2C. You know, we're really looking for just really clever ideas and motivated people. Yeah.
Do you ever accept anybody outside the state?
Oh yeah, yeah. We don't select anybody that's out of state, but we certainly make the preference is Baltimore City, and around Baltimore City. So, but we don't disqualify anyone unless they're outside the state.
Okay, so like, I'm from Frederick County, my business is from Frederick County, you wouldn't exclude.
No. It's the only problem for you is it's in person, so it's kind of you got to make the trip into town for the sessions, so that's a bit of a hump. But that aside, no, I don't think we wouldn't disqualify you in that regard. One of the things that we do sessions every Wednesday night. They run like 2.5, 3 hours. They also have access to this facility for 6 months as part of it, as one of the benefits of being in the program. Yeah, but basically we're looking for growth in Baltimore City and then Maryland. Anyone else? We're good? Yeah. I'm sorry. Hold on a second.
I think you had said that pre-application, you provide support to complete. Is that something you said?
For help with,
Application to complete.
well, I mean, if we do, the question is, do we, hold on, let me get out of there, so I don't get the feedback. The question is, do we provide help in terms of the application process? We conduct a series of informational sessions beforehand. So we'll answer any questions you have and so forth. The truth of the matter is, if you pick up the phone and call me, I'll help you out. So if you have questions specific, contact me, and I'm happy to, give you feedback and advice and that sort of thing. So we're really interested in success in the region. So it's not, we're a kind of we float all, a rising tide floats all boats sort of thing. That's why I want to promote, there are other accelerators in the area. There are other incubator programs. Our goal here is to generate more economic activity in the city. And so if you have success and you go somewhere else with another accelerator, that's fine with us. So however we can help. And then if you have questions, here's my contact information. So feel free to contact me if you have a question. I am the entrepreneur in residence here, which it basically means that I'm available to help if you have questions or comments, or you need some advice on things or questions about ETC. And so feel free to contact me. And thanks for sitting in on this. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the week. It should be really great. There are a lot of interesting conversations and presentations and a chance to network with a lot of people. So make sure you have a name tag on and go up to people and connect. And there'll be free beer on Friday. So that's why I'm here. So, good? Thanks, folks. And now it's coffee, and then we've got someone coming on at 10:15, I think. Is it 10:15? No, 10:40. 10:40, so you got some free time. Yep. And does everyone have the password for the Wi-Fi here? No, there's Wi-Fi.
Yeah, there's signs around.
Are there signs?
And yeah.
Good?
Yeah, we're good. I'm just
I don't have to turn the mic off.